I discovered my husband had a mistress in a totally unexpected way. My shampoo was running out way too fast. When I started investigating, I found out he had been sneaking her into our house. Since she loved my shampoo so much, I decided to add a special mix to the bottle. The next Saturday, when she stepped out of the shower and looked in the mirror. Betrayal has a smell. A subtle, insidious scent that permeates everything, even your most expensive shampoo. I never thought I'd be a woman who spies on her husband, but when the man you love starts leaving a trail of cold kisses and empty bottles, you learn to look for answers in the darkest corners of your life. For 15 years, I, Christine, prided myself on my eye for detail. I knew my husband, Dylan, had a stressful day just by the way he'd drop his keys on the counter. I'd notice neighborhood happenings before anyone else. So, when my pricey shampoo and conditioner started vanishing way too fast, believe me, I noticed. One Wednesday morning, standing in the shower, I frowned, tilting the sleek purple bottle. Barely anything coated my palm. I'd bought this 2 weeks ago. At $58 a bottle, this wasn't just annoying, it was a seriously expensive mystery. Water cascaded down my back as the familiar lavender and jasmine filled the steamy air. I'd splurged on this brand, a little luxury I allowed myself. Sure, Dylan sometimes hinted at my unnecessary expenses, but my hair felt like silk, and at 38, with hints of gray appearing, I felt entitled. The weirdest part? Dylan couldn't possibly be using it. My husband, 43, had lost most of his hair by his mid-30s, keeping the rest closely shaved. Regular soap was all he needed. He even joked about saving money on hair products. I stepped out, wrapped in a fluffy towel, my reflection staring back with intelligent green eyes, magnified by my glasses. Dylan was already in the kitchen, scrolling on his phone, sipping coffee from his favorite mug, our 10th anniversary gift. Dylan, have you noticed anything strange about the bathroom supplies lately? I asked, stirring honey into my coffee, trying to sound casual. His fingers paused. Strange how? My shampoo's almost gone already. I just bought it, and it should last at least a month. I watched his face. A slight tightening around his eyes. Maybe you've been using more than you realize, he mumbled, not meeting my gaze. Or maybe there's a leak in the bottle. Maybe, I said, letting the word hang. It's just odd, because it's happening with my conditioner, too. And you obviously don't use either. He finally looked up, his expression unreadable, then shrugged. I don't know what to tell you, Chris. Maybe check if the bottles are cracked. He drained his coffee, stood up. I should get going. Big client meeting today. He leaned down, a quick, perfunctory kiss on my cheek, so unlike the passionate ones we used to share. Don't wait up tonight. I might have to work late again. Third time this week, I observed mildly. End of quarter rush, he replied, already moving. Love you. Love you too, I said automatically, but he was gone, the door clicking shut. I sat alone, my coffee growing cold, staring at his empty chair. Our lives had become a routine, comfortable, predictable. I worked from home, he climbed the corporate ladder. No kids, by mutual agreement, then it just never felt like the right time. Now, sometimes I wondered. That evening, alone again, Dylan texted around 6 o'clock, confirming he'd be late. I ordered Thai food for one. My phone rang. It was April, Dylan's younger sister, more like a sister to me. Hey sis, how's it going? April's cheerful voice was a welcome distraction. Oh, you know, the usual. Working, existing. That bad, huh? April's perception was uncanny. Where's my brother? Working late again, apparently, I tried to keep the edge from my voice. End of quarter rush, according to him. April's thoughtful pause spoke volumes. Listen, I'm going to be in your area this weekend. Want to do something? Dylan can join us if he's not too busy being important. I laughed. I'd love that. I need some April therapy. It's a date then. Saturday brunch. Perfect. After we hung up, I felt a little better. I finished work, then ran a bath, deciding to pamper myself. Reaching for a fancy bath bomb, I froze. This package of 12 was down to 3. I'd only used 2 myself. A cold stone settled in my stomach. First the shampoo, now this. I tried to dismiss it, but doubt had taken root. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. The other side of the king-sized mattress was empty and cold. Dylan had texted at 11 o'clock, saying he'd crash at a hotel near the office. Logical, reasonable. And yet, my thoughts drifted to the shampoo, the bath bombs, the late nights, the distracted kisses. Small things, really. Nothing concrete, nothing to confront him about. But together, they formed a picture I wasn't ready to see clearly. Tomorrow, I'd look for more clues. Tomorrow, I'd either confirm my suspicions or put them to rest. The next morning, I woke to the sound of the shower running. Dylan was home, apparently arriving while I was asleep. 6:35, unusually early for him. I lay still, listening, imagining him under the spray, washing away. What? Long hours, or something else? When he emerged 20 minutes later, towel around his waist, he seemed surprised to see me awake. "Morning," he said, offering a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Sorry if I woke you." "It's fine," I replied, watching him select a navy suit. "How was your hotel?" "Fine, nothing special. Just crashed and got up early to come home and shower before my 8 o'clock meeting." "Will you be late again tonight?" Dylan paused, one arm in his suit jacket. "Actually, no. Should be home at a normal time. Why don't I pick up some steaks? We could grill." "Sounds nice," I said, a flash of hope. Maybe I was overthinking. But as I entered the bathroom after he left, the first thing I noticed was that my shampoo bottle was now completely empty. That evening, I consciously pushed my suspicions aside. I prepared a salad and roasted potatoes. I even opened a bottle of our favorite Cabernet Sauvignon. By 6:30, the table was set with our wedding china and used for months. Dylan arrived promptly at 7 o'clock, butcher shop bag in hand, greeting me with a more genuine smile than I'd seen in weeks. "Wow, you went all out," he commented. "Thought it would be nice," I replied. "It's been a while since we've had a real dinner together." For 2 hours, we almost felt like our old selves. Dylan told office stories. I shared client anecdotes. We finished the wine. No mention of late nights, empty shampoo bottles, or hotel stays. By the time we were clearing dishes, I'd nearly convinced myself my worries were unfounded. Nearly. As Dylan loaded the dishwasher, a chore he only performed when in an exceptionally good mood, his phone buzzed on the counter. I wouldn't have paid attention, except for the way he lunged for it, snatching it up before the screen could fully illuminate. "Work?" I asked casually, wiping the counter. "Yeah," he muttered, fingers flying. "Just a quick question about tomorrow's presentation." I nodded, saying nothing. But the seed of doubt continued to grow. Later that night, I awoke to darkness. 2:17 a.m. Dylan's soft snores came from beside me, his back turned. Unable to sleep, I slipped out of bed for a glass of water. Passing through the living room, I saw Dylan's suit jacket draped over the sofa, his phone peeking from the inner pocket. I hesitated. My throat was suddenly dry for reasons unrelated to thirst. I'd never snooped. We trusted each other. But the empty shampoo bottle, the late nights, the way he'd grabbed his phone earlier. Before I could second-guess myself, I reached for it. The screen lit up, showing a lock screen photo from our Hawaiian vacation 3 years ago. Happy sun-kissed faces. I tried my birthday, his usual passcode. Locked. Our anniversary date. Nothing. I pressed my thumb against the fingerprint scanner, a method that had always worked before. Access denied. I stared in disbelief. Dylan had removed my fingerprint from his phone. When? Why? I returned the phone exactly as I'd found it and retreated to the kitchen, my hands shaking slightly. The cold water did nothing to dispel the lump in my throat. In 15 years, we'd had an open phone policy. No secrets, no locks the other couldn't open. Until now. The next morning, I woke to an empty bed and a text. Head to office early. Dinner at 7. I'll pick up Italian. Normal, ordinary. As if nothing had changed. But everything had. I could feel it in the growing hollow in my chest. I needed proof to confirm my fears or, hopefully, put them to rest. After showering, grimly satisfied that Dylan had replaced my empty shampoo bottle with a new one, I dressed carefully, applied light makeup, and straightened my hair. A plan was forming, though each step clenched my stomach with anxiety. At the upscale beauty supply store, I bought identical bottles of my shampoo and conditioner. The sales associate recognized me. "Back so soon? Didn't you just buy these 2 weeks ago?" I forced a smile. "They're just so good. Going through them faster than expected. Actually, I'm thinking of getting some for my sister. Any recommendations?" As she chatted, my mind raced. Someone else was using my products. Someone Dylan was bringing into our home. 3 storefronts down, I walked out of an electronics shop $237 lighter, carrying a small security camera disguised as a decorative shelf ornament. My heart pounded as I installed it that afternoon, positioning it across from the shower. It would notify me of any movement. "This is insane," I whispered, testing the view. I'm spying on my own husband. But I couldn't stop. I needed to know. I spent the rest of the day alternating between work and checking the new shampoo bottle I'd placed in the shower. I'd marked the level with a tiny dot of clear nail polish, invisible unless you knew to look. By the time Dylan arrived home with Italian takeout, I had composed myself enough to greet him with a convincing smile. We ate pasta, making small talk. If he noticed anything, he didn't comment. "Any plans this weekend?" he asked casually. "Actually, yes. April's coming for brunch on Saturday. You're welcome to join if you're not busy." He nodded. "I should be able to make it." "Where are you meeting?" "That new place on Maple Street. Supposed to have amazing eggs Benedict." "Sounds good." "What time?" 11. The conversation shifted, but my mind remained fixed on Saturday. Not because of brunch, but because of what I planned to do afterward. If my suspicions were correct, Dylan would find some excuse to be out of the house for several hours that afternoon. He always did, claiming the gym or errands. This time, I would know exactly what happened in our home while I was gone. Friday passed in a blur of client calls and nervous anticipation. Dylan came home at his usual time, and we watched a movie, my head resting on his shoulder. He smelled of his familiar cologne. When his arm wrapped around me, I almost broke down and confronted him. But I held back. Without proof, it would be his word against my suspicions. I needed to be certain. Saturday morning arrived, bright and clear. I woke before Dylan, quietly making coffee. While waiting, I checked my phone. No notifications from the bathroom camera. Either no one had used the shower or Dylan had found it. The latter thought sent a chill through me. But when he shuffled into the kitchen, rubbing sleep from his eyes, his behavior seemed normal. He accepted coffee. "Still on for brunch?" he asked. "Absolutely." April texted to confirm. He scrolled news headlines. I might not stay the whole time. Thought I'd hit the gym afterward, maybe stop by the office. I kept my expression neutral, even as my heart raced. "On a Saturday? You've been working so much lately." He shrugged. "End of quarter crunch. It'll calm down soon. I promise." "Sure," I replied, rinsing my empty mug, my back to him. My eyes closed briefly against the pain of his casual eyes. Then I straightened my shoulders and turned around with a smile. I should start getting ready. April always arrives early. Brunch with April was a welcome distraction. She dominated the conversation with stories about her job as an elementary school principal. Dylan, as predicted, begged off after an hour, kissing my cheek and promising to see me later. "Is everything okay?" April asked the moment he was out of earshot. "You seem distracted." I toyed with my napkin. "Everything's fine. Just busy with work." April's skeptical expression said she didn't believe me, but she didn't press. "Well, if you need to talk, I'm here. No matter what." Those words, "no matter what," nearly broke my composure. Instead, I changed the subject, asking about her latest dating disaster. 2 hours later, I hugged April goodbye, promising to call. Then, instead of heading home, I drove to a coffee shop 3 blocks from our house, ordered an Americano, and opened my laptop, pretending to work. In reality, I was watching the security camera feed on my phone, hidden behind my screen. For over an hour, nothing. The bathroom empty, the house quiet. I was beginning to think I was wrong. Then a notification pinged. Motion detected. My fingers trembled as I tapped the alert. The live feed filled my screen. Someone was entering the bathroom. Not Dylan. A woman. Young, blonde, stunning. She moved with the confidence of someone familiar with the space, setting a designer purse on the counter before beginning to undress. I watched frozen as this stranger, no more than 28 or 29, stepped into the shower and reached directly for my new bottles of shampoo and conditioner. The betrayal, now confirmed, hit me like a physical blow. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The coffee shop faded to background noise as I stared at the screen, watching a complete stranger use my shower, my expensive products, moving through my home as if she belonged there. She finished, wrapped herself in one of our fluffy towels, my towel, and left the bathroom, presumably heading to the bedroom. I couldn't bear to watch anymore. I closed the app with shaking fingers, packed up my laptop, and sat in my car for 20 minutes, trying to calm my racing heart enough to drive. I had my answer. The mystery of the disappearing shampoo was solved in the worst possible way. I drove aimlessly for nearly an hour, my vision blurring with unshed tears. I refused to cry. Not yet. Crying meant acceptance, and I wasn't ready to accept that my 15-year marriage had been reduced to secret bathroom cameras and stolen shampoo. Eventually, I found myself parked at a scenic overlook, the same spot where Dylan had proposed. The irony wasn't lost on me. I sat on the hood of my car, watching the sun descend, finally allowing myself to think clearly. The woman was beautiful, probably a decade younger than me, the kind of woman who turned heads. The kind of woman Dylan would notice. My phone buzzed. A text from Dylan. "Heading home now. Want me to pick up anything for dinner?" So casual. So normal. As if there wasn't a stranger in our home, using our shower, probably lying in our bed, the bed where I'd slept for 15 years, where we'd made love, whispered dreams. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened the camera app again, watching as the blonde woman, now dressed in form-fitting jeans and a silky blouse, applied makeup at my vanity. She was using my makeup brushes, my foundation, my mascara. The violation was breathtaking in its thoroughness. A notification from my doorbell camera popped up. Dylan was home. I watched him enter, calling out something I couldn't hear. Moments later, he appeared in the bathroom doorway behind the blonde woman, wrapping his arms around her waist, kissing her neck as she smiled at him through the mirror. I closed the app, suddenly nauseous. I needed a plan. Confronting them now, while I was emotional and they were together, would only end in chaos. And despite the rage simmering beneath my skin, I prided myself on my self-control. This situation called for something more calculated than a dramatic confrontation. By the time I pulled into April's driveway 40 minutes later, I had composed myself enough to explain without breaking down. April answered the door, her expression shifting from surprise to concern. "I need to stay here tonight," I said simply. "And I need your help." Inside, at April's kitchen counter with a glass of whiskey neither of us normally drank, I showed her the video footage. April's face cycled through shock, disgust, and then a cold anger I'd never seen before. "That absolute bastard," April whispered, her knuckles white. "In your house, in your bed." She looked up, eyes flashing. "Tell me what you need." "Anything. I need somewhere to stay this weekend, and I need to go shopping tomorrow." My voice was steadier than I expected. "I have a plan." April just nodded, showing me to the guest room. That night, my phone buzzed repeatedly with texts and calls from Dylan, each more concerned than the last. "Where are you? Are you okay? Please call me when you get this. Chris, I'm getting worried. Please let me know you're safe." I sent a single text, "Staying at a friend's. Need some space. We'll call tomorrow." His reply came instantly. "Is everything okay? Did something happen?" The audacity almost made me laugh. Did something happen? Only the complete destruction of our marriage, our home, our life together. Only the revelation that the man I'd loved and trusted for 15 years had been bringing another woman into our bed. "Everything's fine," I wrote back. "Just needed a break. Good night." I turned off my phone. Sunday morning found April and me at a beauty supply store, examining hair products. "Are you sure about this?" April asked, picking up a box of platinum blonde hair dye. "It seems extreme." "I'm sure," I replied, adding a bottle of industrial-strength hair removal cream to our basket. He brought her into our home, used her to humiliate me, called me a fool in my own house. My voice remained calm, but April recognized the dangerous glint in my eyes. "I just don't want you to do something you'll regret," April said carefully. I gave her a sideways glance. "The only thing I regret is not realizing sooner what was happening right under my nose." I picked up a bottle of color stripping solution and added it to our growing collection. "Besides, I'm not hurting anyone. I'm just improving my shampoo." By Sunday afternoon, I had created my special concoction, carefully mixing the hair removal cream and color stripper into my expensive shampoo and conditioner bottles, making sure to preserve enough of the original product to maintain its scent and texture. April's guest bathroom now smelled like a hair salon, but the mixture looked perfectly normal. "What now?" April asked. "Now we wait." I checked my phone, which I had finally turned back on, to find 17 missed calls and over 30 texts from Dylan. The most recent, sent an hour ago, informed me he would be working late tonight and would see me tomorrow. I knew exactly what that meant. He was giving the blonde woman one more night in our bed before I returned. Perfect. On Monday morning, I hugged April goodbye. "Are you sure you don't want me to come with you?" April asked, concern evident. "I'm sure. This is something I need to do alone." I loaded my bag into my car and checked my appearance. Despite everything, I looked surprisingly good. Dark hair shining, green eyes clear, chin held high. Whatever happened next, I would face it with dignity. The house was empty when I arrived, Dylan already at work. I moved through the rooms with new eyes, noticing small changes. A different pillow arrangement, a wine glass not from our set in the dishwasher, a faint, unfamiliar perfume lingering. I unpacked, then methodically stripped the bed, stuffing sheets into the washing machine with twice the normal detergent. I scrubbed the shower, replaced my makeup brushes, cleaned every surface the blonde woman might have touched. By noon, the house was spotless, no trace of the intruder remaining, except for the improved shampoo and conditioner, which I carefully returned to the shower caddy. My phone rang just after 1 o'clock. "Christine, you're home," Dylan said, his voice a mixture of relief and weariness. "Yes." My response was neutral. "I've been worried sick, Chris. Where were you all weekend?" "I told you I needed some space. I stayed with a friend." A pause. "Which friend? You could have told me where you were going." I bit back a harsh laugh. The hypocrisy was staggering. I didn't realize I needed permission to have a weekend to myself. "That's not what I meant." He backpedaled. "I was just concerned. You've never disappeared like that before." "People change," I replied evenly. "Are you coming home for dinner tonight?" The abrupt change of subject seemed to throw him. Yes. I should be home by 6. "Good. I'll cook something." After hanging up, I texted April. "Operation Shampoo is a go. He'll be home tonight, but I'm guessing she'll visit while I'm at my dentist appointment tomorrow afternoon." April's response came quickly. "Be careful and call me if you need anything." The evening with Dylan was an exercise in self-control. I prepared a simple meal, responding to his cautious conversation with pleasant but non-committal answers. He seemed relieved that I wasn't questioning his weekend activities or my absence, taking my apparent forgiveness at face value. "I missed you," he said as we cleared dishes, attempting to pull me into an embrace. I allowed a brief hug before stepping away. I have a headache. Think I'll turn in early tonight. Disappointment flashed across his face, but he nodded. Of course. Get some rest. In bed, I lay with my back to him, listening to his breathing. When I was certain he wouldn't wake, I reached for his phone on the nightstand. Still locked, my fingerprint unrecognized. But now I had a different approach. Gently lifting his hand, I pressed his thumb against the sensor. The phone unlocked instantly. I navigated to his messaging app, looking for suspicious contacts. I found what I was looking for under BM Photography, clearly a thinly veiled reference to Brittany McAllister. The most recent exchange had been that morning. Dylan, she's back home. Not sure what's going on, but she seems fine. Almost too fine. Brittany, did she say where she was all weekend? Dylan, just with a friend. Didn't push it. Brittany smart. Are we still on for tomorrow? Dylan, yes. She has a dentist appointment. At 2 o'clock. Should be gone for at least an hour. Brittany, perfect. Miss you already. Last night was amazing. Dylan, it was. See you tomorrow, beautiful. My stomach churned, but I forced myself to keep reading, scrolling through days of messages, intimate exchanges, explicit photos, plans. I found the conversation from the day I discovered the shampoo issue. Brittany, so the dummy finally noticed her fancy shampoo disappearing. Dylan, yeah, mentioned it this morning. Told her maybe there was a leak in the bottle. Brittany, well, it is amazing shampoo. My hair has never looked better. Worth every penny she paid. The casual cruelty took my breath away. They weren't just having an affair. They were laughing at me, mocking me in my own home, using my things, sleeping in my bed. And all the while, Dylan had been playing the role of devoted husband, kissing my cheek each morning, asking about my day, sleeping beside me at night after spending the afternoon with his mistress. Carefully, I placed the phone back exactly as I had found it. Sleep wouldn't come, but that was fine. I had confirmation. And tomorrow, while I pretended to be at a dentist appointment, Brittany McAllister would receive a surprise that would make her regret ever touching my shampoo. The next day unfolded according to plan. I left the house at 1:45, telling Dylan I had a 2 o'clock dental cleaning. Instead, I parked at a coffee shop with a clear view of our street, watching through my car window as a sleek silver convertible pulled into our driveway at precisely 2:15. Brittany stepped out, sunglasses perched on her perfect blonde hair, a small overnight bag in hand. She let herself in with a key Dylan must have given her, and disappeared inside. I waited, sipping my coffee as the minutes ticked by, imagining the scene playing out in my bathroom. The shower turning on, the expensive shampoo being poured into a palm, the luxurious lather, the blissful ignorance. At 3:30, I drove home, timing my arrival for when Dylan would expect me back from the dentist. I parked, noting with satisfaction that the silver convertible was gone. Perfect timing, Dylan was in the kitchen, engrossed in his laptop. How was the dentist? He asked without looking up. Fine, I replied, hanging my purse. The usual cleaning. No cavities. Good, good, he mumbled. I moved through the house with casual purpose, noting subtle signs of Brittany's visit. A damp towel hung slightly askew. The faint scent of unfamiliar perfume. In the bathroom, I checked the shampoo and conditioner bottles. Both had been used, the levels noticeably lower. The trap was sprung. Now, all I had to do was wait for the results. The effects of my special shampoo formula didn't take long to manifest. The very next morning, while I was preparing breakfast, my phone chimed. A notification from the bathroom security camera. I'd almost forgotten I'd left it running. Excusing myself, I checked the footage to find Dylan on the phone, his voice hushed, agitated. What do you mean, emergency? Can't you just wear a hat? A pause. That bad? Are you sure it's not just, I don't know, an allergic reaction or something? Another pause. Okay, I'll come over, but I have to make up some excuse to Christine. Give me 30 minutes. I quickly closed the app and returned to the kitchen, arranging my features into a mask of domestic tranquility just as Dylan entered, his expression tense. Hey, something came up at work. One of the junior associates messed up some client files, and I need to go sort it out. On a Wednesday morning? I raised an eyebrow, the picture of innocent confusion. Can it wait until after breakfast? Unfortunately, not. He was already grabbing his keys. It's time sensitive. Not sure how long it'll take. I'll text you. Of course, I nodded, watching him rush out the door without even a perfunctory goodbye kiss. Once his car pulled away, I allowed myself a small, satisfied smile. Phase 1 of my plan was complete. Later that afternoon, while working, I received a text from April. Can you talk? It's important. I called her immediately. You will never believe who I just saw at Meridian Medical Plaza, April said without preamble. Your husband's little girlfriend coming out of Dr. Morris's dermatology office, wearing the biggest hat I've ever seen, and enormous sunglasses. Even with all that, I could tell she was crying. I fought to keep my voice neutral. Really? That's interesting. Christine, April's tone was knowing. What exactly did you put in that shampoo? Just a little hair color remover and some depilatory cream, I replied innocently. Nothing dangerous. Well, whatever it was, it clearly worked. She looked absolutely devastated. April paused. Are you going to confront Dylan now? Not yet, I said, my plan crystallizing further. I need one more piece of evidence first. That evening, Dylan came home late, his expression haggard. He claimed to have spent the day resolving the work crisis, but the faint scent of antiseptic soap clung to his skin. He had clearly accompanied Brittany to her dermatology appointment. Tough day? I asked mildly, setting dinner in front of him. You have no idea, he sighed, rubbing his temples. Sometimes I think I'm surrounded by incompetence. I hummed noncommittally, watching him push food around his plate. Anyone I know? Dylan's head snapped up, eyes narrowing slightly before his expression smoothed. No, just some junior staff. Not worth discussing. The next few days passed in a strange pantomime of normalcy. Dylan was distant, constantly checking his phone when he thought I wasn't looking. I pretended not to notice, going about my routine with placid efficiency while monitoring the security footage for any sign of Brittany's return. On Saturday morning, I announced casually over coffee, April invited me to spend the weekend at her lake house. Girls' getaway. I thought I'd go. We haven't had sister time in ages. Dylan's response was a touch too enthusiastic. That sounds great. You deserve a break. When are you leaving? After lunch, I replied, noting how quickly he reached for his phone, no doubt to text Brittany the good news. I'll be back Sunday evening. Perfect. Dylan smiled, the first genuine smile I'd seen from him in days. I've got some work to catch up on anyway. Work, right? I packed an overnight bag and kissed Dylan goodbye at 1 o'clock, driving directly to April's house. Not her lake house, which didn't exist, but her suburban home 15 minutes away. By 2:30, we had set up a command center in April's living room. Both of us hunched over my laptop, monitoring the bathroom camera feed. Are you sure you want to watch this? April asked, concern etching her features. It might be difficult. I need to see, I replied firmly. I need to know exactly what's been happening in my house. We didn't have to wait long. At 3:15, the camera captured Dylan leading Brittany into the master bathroom. Her appearance made both of us gasp. The formerly luscious blonde hair was now a patchy disaster, with large sections significantly thinner, and the color a sickly combination of brassy orange and greenish blonde. Oh my God, April breathed. Your concoction did that? I nodded, a mixture of vindication and faint horror washing over me. I hadn't expected quite such dramatic results. On screen, Brittany was clearly distraught, her voice rising as she gestured wildly at her ruined hair. The dermatologist said it was some kind of chemical burn. Do you know how much the treatments are costing me? My agency has already put me on hiatus. I had to cancel 3 shoots this week. Dylan tried to calm her, his hands on her shoulders. Baby, I'm so sorry. We'll figure this out. Maybe Christine found out somehow and tampered with, don't you dare blame this on me. Brittany jerked away. I've been using that shampoo for months without any problems. This is your fault. You should have checked it or something. You know how important my hair is for my career. Your career. Dylan's voice took on an edge. What about my marriage? If Christine finds out about us, oh please. Brittany cut him off with a harsh laugh. Like you care about your marriage. You've been telling me for months how unhappy you are. How Christine doesn't understand you, how we're going to be together once you figure out the finances of the divorce. I felt as though I'd been slapped. Divorce. He had been planning to divorce me and blaming me for our marital problems to his mistress. On the screen, Dylan was backpedaling. That's not what I meant. Of course, I care about my marriage. It's just complicated right now. Complicated? Brittany repeated flatly. Well, let me uncomplicate things for you. I'm not setting foot in this house again until you figure out what happened to my hair. I have a consultation with a specialist in New York on Monday. It's going to cost $5,000, which you're paying for, by the way. $5,000? Dylan's voice rose in alarm. Brittany, be reasonable. Reasonable? Her voice became shrill. Look at me, Dylan. I'm a model. Or I was until your wife's toxic shampoo destroyed my hair. The least you can do is pay for the treatments. April glanced at me, who sat stone-faced. You okay? She whispered. I nodded once, not trusting myself to speak. On screen, the argument continued to escalate until Brittany stormed out of the bathroom, Dylan following close behind, both disappearing from view. Should we keep watching? April asked after a moment of silence. No, I finally said, closing the laptop. I've seen enough. That evening, while Dylan believed I was enjoying a carefree weekend at a lake house, I sat at April's dining table, methodically sorting through 15 years of financial records. I had secretly downloaded them from our shared cloud storage before leaving home. Credit card statements, bank accounts, investment portfolios. I examined everything with the detached precision of an auditor, making notes, highlighting discrepancies. What exactly are you looking for? April asked, setting a cup of tea beside me. Ammunition, I replied without looking up. And insurance. By Sunday morning, I had compiled a comprehensive financial history of our marriage, including several concerning discoveries. A separate checking account Dylan had opened 6 months ago, into which he had been transferring small amounts regularly. Suspicious charges on his personal credit card at high-end restaurants and hotels on days he claimed to be working late, and most damning of all, recent searches in his browser history for divorce laws in our state and hidden assets during divorce. That bastard was planning to leave you, April said, looking over my findings and probably trying to hide money before filing. Yes, I agreed, my voice remarkably steady. But he made a crucial mistake. What's that? He underestimated me. I gathered the documents into a neat folder. He forgot that I'm the one who organized our finances for 15 years. I know where every penny is. April studied my composed face. What are you going to do now? Now, I smiled, though the expression didn't reach my eyes. Now I go home and have a long overdue conversation with my husband. When I arrived home Sunday evening, rolling my overnight bag through the front door with deliberate noise, I found Dylan in the living room watching football, an empty pizza box on the coffee table. He looked up with practiced casualness. Hey, how is the lake house? There is no lake house, I replied calmly, setting my purse down. April doesn't have a lake house. Never has. Dylan's expression faltered. What? Then where were you? At April's regular house, watching you and your girlfriend argue about her ruined hair through my bathroom security camera. The color drained from Dylan's face so quickly that under different circumstances, I might have been concerned for his health. He opened his mouth, closed it, then opened it again. No words emerging. Don't bother denying it, I continued in the same calm voice, moving to sit in the armchair across from him. I have hours of footage. Very educational viewing. I particularly enjoyed the part where Brittany mentioned you've been planning to divorce me. Christine, I can explain. Can you? Can you explain why you've been bringing another woman into our home for months? Why you gave her a key to our house? Why you let her use my things? Sleep in my bed? Shower in my bathroom? Dylan ran a hand over his head. A nervous gesture I'd seen countless times. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I never meant to hurt you. And yet, here we are. I crossed my legs, smoothing my skirt with steady hands. Here's what's going to happen now, Dylan. I've compiled a complete record of our finances, including your pathetic attempts to hide money in that new checking account. I've documented every hotel charge, every late night at the office, and every visit Brittany made to our home. I've saved all the security footage to a cloud account that only I can access. Dylan's expression shifted from shock to weariness. What are you saying? I'm saying that tomorrow morning I'll be calling Robert Jenkins. You remember him? My college friend who became a divorce attorney. We're going to have a very interesting conversation about marital assets and infidelity documentation. And then I'm going to file for divorce. Wait, Christine, please. We can work this out. Dylan leaned forward, desperation creeping into his voice. It was a mistake. Brittany means nothing to me. It was just what? A 15-year itch? A midlife crisis? Does it matter? My composure finally cracked, pain flashing across my face. You brought her into our home, Dylan. You let her use my things. You laughed with her about me being too stupid to notice. You planned to leave me while pretending everything was fine. What kind of person is that? Dylan had no answer, his shoulders slumping in defeat. I've already packed some of your clothes, I continued, my professional tone returning. You'll be staying at a hotel tonight. I expect you to be gone when I wake up tomorrow. My lawyer will contact you about arrangements for collecting the rest of your belongings. You're throwing me out? Just like that? After 15 years. Dylan's voice rose in disbelief. No, Dylan. You threw us away, just like that, the moment you gave another woman a key to our home. I stood, signaling the end of the conversation. By the way, you might want to let Brittany know that the hair loss is likely to get worse before it gets better. The depilatory cream I mixed into the shampoo can continue working for several days. Some effects might be permanent. Dylan's jaw dropped. You did that to her hair on purpose? Consider it poetic justice. She liked my shampoo so much. I simply made her a special blend. I picked up my purse and headed toward the bedroom. Your suitcase is by the front door. I suggest you use it. That night, I slept alone in the king-sized bed I had shared with Dylan for 15 years. Instead of the emptiness I expected, a strange sense of peace settled over me. The worst had happened. My marriage was over. My trust shattered. And yet, I had survived. Not only survived, but reclaimed my power in a situation where I had been made to feel powerless. As I drifted towards sleep, my phone chimed with a text from April. How did it go? Are you okay? I typed back. He's gone. I'm better than okay. I'm free. And for the first time in months, I slept deeply and dreamlessly, unburdened by suspicion or doubt or the weight of lies. Whatever came next would be entirely my choice. 1 year later, I stood in the bright, airy kitchen of my new bakery, Sweet beginnings, carefully piping delicate rosettes onto a three-tiered wedding cake. Early morning sunlight streamed through the large front windows, casting a golden glow over the pristine work surfaces. The scent of vanilla and freshly baked pastries filled the air, mingling with the rich aroma of brewing coffee. This space, my space, still felt like a dream sometimes. After the divorce was finalized 6 months ago, I had used my portion of the proceeds from selling our house to make 2 investments, a charming 2-bedroom cottage on the quieter side of town and this bakery, which had quickly gained a reputation for having the best custom cakes and pastries within 50 miles. "That looks amazing," said Megan, my 23-year-old assistant. "Mrs. Edwards is going to love it." I stepped back, adjusting my glasses. "I think it needs a bit more shimmer on these petals," I murmured, reaching for edible pearl dust. The bell above the shop door chimed, and Megan glanced at her watch. "That's odd. We don't open for another 30 minutes. "It's probably April," I replied without looking up. She said she might stop by. But it wasn't April who appeared in the kitchen doorway a moment later. It was Brittany McAllister. My hands froze mid-motion, the pastry bag suspended above the cake. Brittany looked markedly different from the stunning model in the security footage. Her once luxurious blonde hair was now cut in a severe chin-length bob, clearly a strategic choice to deal with uneven regrowth. She appeared thinner, her designer clothes hanging somewhat loosely. "Hello, Christine," Brittany said, her voice quieter than I remembered. "Your assistant let me in." "I hope that's okay." I sat down the pastry bag, wiped my hands on my apron, and turned to Megan. "Would you mind watching the front for a few minutes and make sure Mrs. Edwards' cake delivery is prepared for noon?" Megan nodded, glancing curiously between us before retreating. "What are you doing here?" I asked once we were alone, my tone neither hostile nor welcoming. Simply direct. Brittany shifted uncomfortably, tucking a strand of her shortened hair behind her ear. "I wanted to see you in person. To apologize." "Apologize?" I repeated flatly. "It's been a year, I know." Brittany's gaze dropped. It took me a long time to work up the courage and to fully understand what I'd done. I leaned against the counter, crossing my arms. "And what exactly do you think you did, Brittany?" "I destroyed a marriage. I disrespected your home, your privacy, you. I was selfish and cruel." Brittany looked up, meeting my eyes. "There's no excuse for my behavior, but I want you to know that I've been in therapy for the past 8 months, trying to understand why I did what I did. I searched for signs of insincerity or manipulation, but found none. There was a rawness to Brittany now, a vulnerability that hadn't existed in the confident, entitled model who had once called me a dummy in text messages to Dylan. And did you understand?" I asked. Brittany nodded slowly. "Some of it. I was raised to value appearance above everything else. My worth was always tied to how I looked, how men responded to me. I chased validation in destructive ways." She gestured to her hair with a rueful smile. "Losing my hair, my identity really, forced me to confront who I was beneath the surface. It wasn't pretty, but I found truth there. Despite myself, I felt a flicker of empathy. I remembered the devastation in Brittany's voice when she'd realized her modeling career was in jeopardy. At the time, it had seemed like justice. Now, with a year's distance, it seemed more like a young woman facing the consequences of her choices for perhaps the first time. "What happened with your career?" I asked, surprising myself with the question. "It's over," Brittany replied simply. "At least the modeling part. I lost all my contracts after the hair incident. Even when it started growing back, it wasn't the same. I wasn't the same." She paused. "I'm working in fashion photography now, behind the camera instead of in front of it. It's actually more fulfilling than modeling ever was." I nodded, unsure what to say. Part of me wanted to hold on to the anger, to remind Brittany of every hurtful text, every invasion of privacy, every moment of betrayal. But I recognized, with some surprise, that the rage that had once consumed me had largely burned itself out, leaving behind a calm wisdom I hadn't possessed before. "And Dylan?" I asked finally. "Are you still?" Brittany let out a short, humorless laugh. "No. That ended about 2 weeks after you kicked him out. When I realized he was expecting me to take care of him emotionally while he was going through the divorce. He was," she searched for the words, "weaker than I thought. Always looking for someone to validate him, to take care of his needs. I think that's why he needed both of us. You for stability, me for excitement. Once he couldn't have both, neither of us was enough." The assessment was surprisingly insightful. It matched my own realizations about my ex-husband. "I saw him about a month ago, actually," Brittany continued, "at a coffee shop downtown. He didn't see me. He was with some redhead, touching her hand across the table, giving her that same intense, only woman in the world look he used to give me. Some people never change." I felt a strange sense of closure hearing this confirmation. Dylan's infidelity hadn't been about my shortcomings, but about his own. "Why no?" I asked, returning to Brittany's initial purpose. "Why come apologize after all this time?" "Part of my therapy," Brittany admitted, making amends where possible. But also, she glanced around the bakery kitchen. I heard about your success, how you've built this amazing business from nothing. I wanted to see it, to see that something good came out of all that pain. I felt an unexpected warmth spread through my chest. My bakery was indeed something good, something I never would have pursued if my marriage had continued. In a strange way, the betrayal that had seemed like the end of my world had actually been the beginning of a better one. Would you like some coffee? I found myself asking. I just made a fresh pot. Brittany looked surprised, then grateful. I'd like that. Yes. 20 minutes later, April pushed open the door to Sweet Beginnings, instantly spotting Christine and Brittany sitting at a small table in the corner, deep in conversation. She stopped short, blinking in disbelief. What in the world? April muttered under her breath as she approached. I looked up, a smile spreading across my face. April. Perfect timing. You remember Brittany, I'm sure. April's expression was priceless. Vividly, she replied dryly, though I remember her with more hair. Brittany winced but nodded. I deserved that. I gestured to an empty chair. Join us. Brittany was just about to leave. But I wanted to ask you something. Still puzzled, April sat down as Brittany gathered her purse and stood. Thank you for the coffee, Christine, and for listening. It means more than you know. Closure works both ways, I replied simply. Take care of yourself, Brittany. After Brittany had left, April turned to me with wide eyes. Okay, what just happened? Why were you having coffee with the blonde homewrecker? Please tell me this isn't some weird forgiveness thing where you're going to invite her and my idiot brother to Thanksgiving dinner. I laughed, the sound light and genuine. Nothing that dramatic. She came to apologize. I decided to hear her out. I shrugged. It was healing in a way for both of us, I think. April shook her head in amazement. You're a better person than I am. I would have poured that coffee over her head. A year ago, I might have, I admitted. But I've realized something important, April. Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. I'm happy now. Genuinely happy. Why would I want to carry around all that bitterness? April studied me for a moment, then smiled softly. You really are happy, aren't you? It shows. You're glowing in a way you never did when you were with Dylan. I am, I confirmed, glancing around my bakery with pride. Which brings me to what I wanted to ask you. Remember how you mentioned your school's fundraiser needs a cake for their silent auction? Don't tell me you're offering to make one, Christine. Those usually go for at least $500, and with your prices now, I want to donate it, I said firmly. Something spectacular that will raise lots of money for the kids. Maybe a three-dimensional storybook design. I've been wanting to try that technique. April's eyes welled with tears. You amazing woman. The kids would absolutely love that. Consider it my way of giving back some of the support you've shown me this past year. I wouldn't have made it through without you, April. Speaking of support, April said, wiping her eyes and regaining her composure. Have you thought more about opening that second location downtown? The real estate agent called me yesterday, said the owner of that corner space is getting anxious to sell. I had been considering expanding for months. The downtown location would be perfect. More foot traffic, proximity to the business district, and the charming historic building had exactly the aesthetic I wanted. I'm meeting with the bank tomorrow, I admitted. The loan should be approved by next week. And then, I spread my hands in a gesture of excited anticipation. Sweet Beginnings is going to take over the world. April finished for me, grinning. Or at least the greater metropolitan area. Later that evening, after closing the shop and completing final preparations, I drove home to my cottage. The small house welcomed me with warm lights. I'd installed smart lighting that turned on automatically at sunset, ensuring I never came home to darkness. As I unlocked the front door, the familiar scent of home enveloped me cinnamon and vanilla, thanks to my constant baking experiments. The cottage wasn't large or luxurious like the house I'd shared with Dylan, but it was entirely mine, decorated in colors and styles that reflected my personality rather than compromises made to accommodate someone else's tastes. I kicked off my shoes, padded into the kitchen, poured myself a glass of wine, and carried it out to the small back porch. The evening was mild, the garden I'd planted in the spring now lush with flowers and herbs. I settled into the comfortable porch swing, allowing the gentle motion to soothe me as I reflected on the day's unexpected visitor. Seeing Brittany again had stirred old memories, but not in the painful way I might have expected. Instead, the encounter had reinforced how far I had come since discovering Dylan's betrayal, how much stronger, more confident, and more genuinely myself I had become. The shampoo revenge, as April had dubbed it, hadn't just been about punishing Brittany. It had been my first step toward reclaiming my power, toward refusing to be the unwitting fool in my own home. The plan had been calculating, perhaps even cruel, but it had also been necessary, a catalyst for the transformation that followed. I took another sip of wine, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. I thought about the Christine of a year ago. Devastated, humiliated, uncertain of her future. That woman could never have imagined sitting here now, successful business owner, financially independent, at peace with her past, and excited about her future. The cottage phone rang, interrupting my reverie. Few people had that number. I went inside to answer. "Christine, it's James." The voice belonged to the Culinary Arts Program Director who had reached out last month. "James, hello. How are you?" "Wonderful, thanks. I'm calling because I've had a chance to review the teaching proposal you sent over, and I'd like to offer you the position. 1 evening class per week. Introduction to Professional Baking. Starting next semester. What do you think?" I felt a thrill of excitement. Teaching had never been part of my original plan. But when James had approached me after tasting one of my cakes at a charity event, the idea had taken root. Sharing my knowledge and passion, helping others discover their own creative potential, seemed like a natural extension of my journey. "I think it sounds perfect," I replied, unable to keep the smile from my voice. "I'd be delighted to accept." After finishing the call, I returned to my porch swing, a sense of contentment washing over me. Another new beginning, another opportunity to grow. My phone chimed with a text from April. "Just heard from my friend at the courthouse. Guess who filed for bankruptcy today? Hint, he's bald and shares your former last name." I wasn't surprised. Dylan had never been good with money, and without me managing our finances, it was only a matter of time. According to April's occasional reports, he'd gone through 3 jobs since the divorce, each ending when his charm wore thin and his mediocre work ethic became apparent. I typed back a simple response. "That's unfortunate. Hope he lands on his feet eventually." And I meant it. I no longer wished Dylan ill, though I certainly didn't wish him particularly well either. He simply occupied less and less space in my thoughts, becoming a chapter in my life rather than a defining aspect of my identity. The swing creaked gently as I leaned back, gazing up at the first stars. I thought about the woman Brittany had described seeing with Dylan, the latest in what was likely a string of relationships following the same pattern. I felt a moment of sympathy for that unknown redhead, who had no idea she was stepping into a role that had been played before. But that was no longer my concern. My life now moved to a different rhythm, one set by the early morning. Mixing of batters, the precise timing of ovens, the creative challenge of designing cakes that were both beautiful and delicious, by evenings spent reading or gardening or having dinner with friends who valued me for myself, not for what I could provide. As darkness settled fully over my garden, I gathered my empty wine glass and headed inside. Tomorrow would be another busy day at Sweet Beginnings, 3 custom cake orders, a catering job, and a meeting with the bank about financing my expansion. I moved through my evening routine with practiced ease. As I climbed into bed, I noticed the framed motto I'd hung on the wall when I first moved in, words that had become a personal mantra: "The best revenge is living well." I smiled as I turned out the light. If that was true, and I believed it was, then my revenge was complete and ongoing, sweeter than any cake I could bake, more satisfying than any momentary triumph. In the darkness of my bedroom, in the home I had created for myself, I closed my eyes and fell asleep with the peaceful certainty that the life I was building day by day was exactly the one I was meant to live. Not despite the betrayal that had once shattered my world, but because of how I had chosen to rise from those broken pieces, creating something new and wholly my own. And as for the expensive shampoo that had started it all, I had switched brands entirely. My new favorite cost a quarter of the price and worked just as well. Some luxuries, I had discovered, weren't worth their cost. But others, like independence, self-respect, and the courage to begin again, those were priceless.